Hey ladies.
Hey gentlemen.
My name is Stephanie.
My name is Joseph.
And we're from Permission to Be Wealthy. In today's video, we're going to talk about 8 poor money habits that we have become so accustomed to that they're literally keeping people poor and keeping a lot of us from making progress with our wealth building journey. The reality is that every money decision that you make today impacts your future self, literally from a ripple effect perspective that compounds over a lifetime. And so today we wanted to bring to light these 8 poor money habits so that you have the opportunity to decipher between the narrative of, hey, you're spending way too much on lattes versus real impactful things that can help you in your money building journey.
Wonderful, Steph. So if you're new to our channel is all about couples having open and honest conversations about money, building wealth, and giving yourself permission to be wealthy. So the first topic that we want to discuss is paying yourself last. Now, whenever people talk about paying yourself last, oftentimes whenever this happens, people are typically paying their car bill, any bills that they have, let's say your electricity bill, whatever that is, you usually pay all those things. So you're paying all these other companies to make money off of you, but you're not paying yourself first. I want to dive a little bit deeper into what that means, paying yourself first, because whenever I used to hear this, I used to hear people say, pay yourself first. Well, I always pay myself. I buy whatever I want, right? But in reality, what that technically means is you're paying your future self first, your future millionaire self first. And so, Stephanie, do you want to dive a little bit more into what this means for people who may have this as a bad habit, if you will, in paying other people before they pay themselves?
I mean, the reality is most debts, can range from a low interest, which is 6%, 7% and below, or above the 6 to 7% range, which is what we call high interest debt. And so as you have all these debts, you are literally just paying, another company to keep the lights on and make more profits and all this other stuff. So you're paying, literally prioritizing them first before you really pay yourself and your future self that hard-earned money at the end of the day. The other thing is there's this concept called Parkinson's Law, which essentially says no matter how much time you give yourself, let's say you have a project and you need to get that project done in a week, you're going to take that entire week to get that project done. But if you literally allotted yourself 2 days or 1 day, come hell or high water, you are going to figure out how to get that project done in that 1 to 2 days. The same thing kind of goes with investing or even your money. If you give yourself your entire paycheck to spend and then pay yourself at the end, you're going to spend your entire paycheck. You're going to go to that brunch on Sunday and maybe spend that additional couple of dollars to order that extra mimosa just because you had the money in your bank account and you can see it, versus saying, hey, I have a plan of investing $500 a month. I'm going to pull that money aside and even auto withdraw it to another account so I don't even see it, and I'm paying myself first so that my future self can benefit from that in the long run.
Very good points. Yeah, so basically, ladies and gentlemen, tip number 1 here, I would say the number 1 bad money habit that you should get rid of is paying everybody else first and start budgeting yourself in before you budget everybody else in. Still pay your bills, let's be very clear.
Absolutely.
But make sure that you're putting an allotment of amount to start paying yourself, investing and saving before you pay everybody else.
So the second item or poor money habit is trying to keep up with the Joneses, or another way is keeping up with friends with expensive taste. Now, as life goes on and you find yourself buying, that home in this other community that maybe you aspired to be in, and you surround yourselves with other people that might have different priorities, and everyone can have priorities in their own right that are different than yours. But if others have maybe more expensive taste or buying that new car, want to go out to dinner, maybe every weekend, a couple of times on the weekend, you name it, those decisions may not necessarily, or those recommendations may not necessarily align with your budgeting and your wealth building priorities. Now, the average American carries about $90,000 in debt, and that ranges from a series of things, whether it's a car, student loans, consumer credit card debt, because in America, it's crazy. We've just gotten very comfortable with this idea that that's all okay. But with the $90,000 mark per person, that's a quite astonishing number to have to tackle from a debt pay down perspective. And personally, for Joseph and I, we paid down $420,000 of debt, including a mortgage. So I think our student loans were around $60,000 of that. But that really took a lot of discipline in making sure that we, number one, paid ourselves first, and number two, we're really prioritizing how we were spending our money and not comparing ourselves to others as we were making new friends, moving to one of the most expensive countries in the world. We were literally having to make sure that we kept our priorities in check and did what made sense for us and what we valued.
Yeah, I think along with Stephanie's points, she's talking about big numbers, right? What a lot of people don't realize is you get yourself into this $90,000 in debt by buying small things as well, right? So you don't look at your daily spending, you don't look at your weekend spending, you don't look at your budgeting.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm guilty of it. I'm sure Stephanie can say she's guilty. I'm a lot more guilty of it, just to be very clear. I used to hate looking at my bills. I used to hate looking at my bank statements. I used to hate all of that stuff, which should have been the other way around, where I got excited about paying down my debt. I got excited about getting ready to start saving. And so make sure as your friends are going out to dinner, your friends are going on these little trips to wherever they're traveling to, New York or Las Vegas or wherever they're going, if it's not in your budget, then don't go. If you have really good friends, they don't have to be the Joneses, they can be the Williams, they can be the Franks, they can be whoever their last name, the Rodriguezes, the Hernandezes.
Yeah.
But whoever your friends are, they should respect you, and hopefully they come along with you because they may be in the same situation as you are and may be looking to increase their net worth over time, but don't know where to start and don't have anybody to do it with. So keep that in mind as you're planning on saying, hey, I'm going to cut back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the last things I want to bring up on this one is in the world of social media, it can be really easy to compare yourself and what others are doing, whether it's living these perceived lavish lifestyles and whatnot. Social media is just that. It's just the front of what could be, and doesn't really reveal the background and the behind the scenes look of what might be going with people and their finances. This statistic obviously says that a large number of Americans have a lot of debt. Not all, but a large number. And so what's on social media may not necessarily always be reality.
So do you.
Do you? That's right.
Okay, so bad money habit number 3 is using credit cards to earn points. Now, let me be the first to say you can use credit cards the right way, but you have to establish good habits before you start using credit cards to build points. A lot of people will get credit cards and think, oh, you know what? I'm going to go overspend. I'm going to go buy all this stuff and I'm going to get points for it. It doesn't make sense. You put yourself into debt to get points and then you go buy more stuff. So it's like this massive circle of accumulation, right? Of consumerism. So whenever you're looking at credit cards, it's really easy for people to take a credit card, go swipe and say, oh, I'll get these points and oh, I'll pay that off later.
Yeah.
Not really realizing they're adding to that $90K that we talked about, $90,000 of debt that Americans are typically in as a whole, or on average. So whenever you're looking at this, make sure you're really thinking about, am I getting this credit card because it's going to help me? And am I going to overspend in order to get points? If that's the case, you probably shouldn't get the credit card. Another thing that I want to bring to light is you now have this other system, Stephanie, where it's like what we used to call layaway whenever we were kids. I was poor, so my mother used to use layaway to buy gifts, right? At least that's the way I saw it. And so now, you know, they have this buy now, pay later, I think is what they call it. And it's taken off in Australia and a few other countries. These companies have done it. And their target is women, right? Because women will go buy stuff and thinking, oh, I'll just pay it later and I'm not going to worry about it. But not realizing that that pay later may come with an interest rate.
Absolutely.
And so these credit cards and these points and all these things that you're thinking are great may not actually be working your advantage like you think they are. Now, if you get smart, you're out of debt, you're using the points because you're paying off things that you need to be paying off, then that might put you in a much better situation. But not until you actually learn to manage your money from the get-go and you're paying yourself first and knowing where your money's actually going, every single dollar is going.
Yeah, I think one pressure test to this one is if you have this credit card and you're utilizing it specifically for points for purchases that you really need and value, and there's no reason why you should go upgrade something just because you could charge it on a credit card, right? But ask yourself, can I pay this off literally after I charge it off on the credit card today, right? You can choose to pay off your credit card every week, every day. We pay ours off once a month because we have cash to cover it immediately, no problem, said and done. We budget and we understand where our money's going. But just use that as a rule of thumb. Can you pay in cash literally tomorrow for the thing that you just swiped your credit card for? And I think that'll give you pause. And if that doesn't work, don't have the credit card at all.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to add to that, Stephanie, is a lot of people that start managing their money, they actually give themselves a limit. So let's say, for example, you want to buy something and it's $100, right? Up to $100, you can pay with your debit card, right? And I'm not telling you what to do with your money, that's your choice, but I'm just telling you what smart people are doing with their money.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're creating these foundations. So it's $100, $99 or less, right? Anything above $100, you get to use your points card because that's what you're going to be using for. Now again, these are things that may not necessarily be your everyday bills that you're like, okay, I want to go get a massage, or I want to go get facial or whatever people get your nails done, whatever ladies do. I have no idea. All right, guys is like,
I think Joseph wants a pedicure or something. He's manifesting this pedicure or something.
Exactly. I'm gonna go get my nails done. Right. So anything that's above $100, then you can put it on your points card. If you're actually earning points with that. Anything below that, you put on your debit card. And if you're keeping your balance and you're looking at your expenses every month, then that budget will let you know exactly where your money's going.
Yeah.
And then anything above that, you're like, oh, I have to go pay that card at the end of the month. Now I know where that extra luxury expense is going, and is it really worth those points, right?
Totally agree. Totally agree. So bad money habit number 4, having disorganized finances. And when I first started Women's Wealth Effect as an Instagram page, I came across the ostrich effect, which was literally like putting your head in the sand and just ignoring reality, whether it was good, bad, and or ugly. And sometimes people literally just ignore the reality of their finances, whether it could be good and or bad. I just went through with my mom over the holiday her entire net worth, and it was a good news story. But she had never really pulled it all together and organized her finances to truly give herself the peace and the calm to know where she was. Yeah. So, good news story. But on the other side of it, getting a list of all your checking accounts, all of your debts, how much do you have left on your student loans? Are you able to pay off these debts in a reasonable time frame associated to all the different interest rates that are associated to them, so that you are making the most out of your hard-earned money and where it's going, where it's coming from, how it's organized. And so there's a number of different ways that you can do this, and with more fintech coming into this space, they've made it even easier than ever to make sure that you can organize your finances. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Number 1, there's Mint, there's Betterment, there's Personal Capital, a number of apps that are literally on your phone that allow you to plug in all your information, have all that stuff stored for you. You can check it every day, you can check it once a month. So if you have issue with having to do the manual route of it all, there are a lot of automated solutions for you to manage your money. The other thing that I like to recommend to my coaching clients is tracking your net worth in a spreadsheet. I think it does 2 things. Number 1, puts all the fact base in front of you. But number 2, it holds you accountable to have a personal conversation with your money every single month. Yes, you might have to organize all your usernames and your passwords and go and log into them. And my experience is every once in a while, one of those accounts just won't let you in because you can't get the text message with the code, or who knows what it is. Yeah. But it still allows you to have a personal date, a couple's date with your money, so that you can get excited about the progress that you're making. You can hold yourself accountable if there might have been a slip up here and there, because everyone knows we all have them, especially coming out of the holidays. I'm sure a number of us are dealing with how much we spent or overspent. But navigating through tracking your net worth in a spreadsheet is very helpful. And the last thing that I'll bring up is consolidating all of these accounts. Right now, our investments are in between Fidelity and Vanguard. Our plan is, once we get into the next couple of years through our financial independence journey, that we'll try to consolidate as much as possible, because it is really nice to just go into one nice account and see it all there, and not feel like you have to go hold on to a lot of your personal information out on the web.
Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoy seeing as we follow people who are in the FIRE journey, the Financial Independence Retire Early journey, is a lot of them have the Personal Wealth app. And so I believe that's what it's called. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Personal Capital.
Personal Capital.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have the Personal Capital app.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see them post, because you can actually, they consolidate everything within the app, and the app actually shows your net worth increasing. So it's really cool to follow a lot of these folks and see their actual net worth increasing. And it's motivating, even if you have more money or less money, wherever you are in that journey, to see other people on the same journey as you. It's like this tribe, like this unspoken tribe, because there are groups for it, but to see other people doing it, you're like, holy smokes, that's so cool. So organizing that information will also give you more motivation as you build your net worth. And if you're trying to get to that millionaire mark plus, that's something that just gives you a nice visual to let you know where you're headed to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think everyone has to start somewhere. So while a lot of what you see, again, on social media is going to be really inspiring, understand that by getting this organized allows you to take these really big, lofty goals and break them up into annual goals and then monthly and then weekly goals and celebrate those wins along the way. I think that visualization absolutely helps, and you should be super proud of taking step one and getting organized.
Awesome. Okay, so bad money habit number 5 is getting too comfortable with debt. So let's dive into getting comfortable with debt. I could probably name out of 10 people who are comfortable with debt. And let me explain this a little bit. So people are out there buying houses, you buy that with debt. You get a mortgage loan, that's debt. A lot of people don't like to think about that way. They're like, oh, I own this house. Actually, no, the bank owns your house. You happen to have debt to the bank who owns your house, but yes, it is your house, it's in your name, but it's also in the bank's name through the loan. The other part about that is cars. A lot of people go out and they buy cars, maybe necessarily cars they don't need. We bought cars, they made us feel good. We enjoy driving in really nice cars, luxury cars. I won't say the brand unless they're gonna sponsor a video at some point in the future, but we really love those cars. But I'm thinking about all the things that we bought like this that could have put us so much further ahead if we didn't buy them, right? And where we would be today, yes, we're in a very good position, but we would be so much further ahead if we didn't take into the normal consumer debts that we're taught to buy into. And when I say taught, that's commercials, that's TV that you watch every day, that's billboards that you see on the street, that's whenever you go anywhere, you see all these commercials, advertisements everywhere that actually teach you to do these things. Yeah. And at the end of the day, all it is just more and more debt. So if you can get rid of being comfortable with or not having debt like everybody else does, then you will actually be more comfortable with getting to wealth much faster than everybody else. You'll just have to do with less. So maybe you're not driving a Mercedes or a BMW or a brand new car every 2 years, but you have a car that's paid off and you have more money in the bank than maybe the majority of people who do have those cars, and they're having to go bust their butt at work. And then 10 years, 20 years, 30 years earlier, you're retired, and they're going, how did you do that? I don't have a $700,000 house. I don't have a Mercedes, whatever. I don't even know what the classes are of the cars, right? But
You used to.
Yeah, I used to. I used to know everything about cars. I loved cars. But if you can get comfortable not caring about that stuff and not carrying that debt that comes with those things and buying more things that are actually in your budget, the faster that you're going to get to having as much as you want, and actually not even having a car and living in any country you want to live in and traveling whenever you want to is going to be much, much better than sitting in that damn car at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m. driving to work to pay for the car. So just keep that in mind as you think about
traffic.
this. Yes. In traffic, that's correct. Yeah.
And I think one of the other debts that is a quite astonishing whole body of work to understand is student loans. The most recent articles that came out from a Navient perspective, they are now paying back to over 66,000, I won't say participants, but people who have loans, $1.7 billion that they have agreed in a settlement to pay back.
And student loans.
Student loans, that's right.
And private loans specifically, right?
Private loans specifically. And I think in the private loan, actually in the loan space, there's $130 billion of loans on the market, right? So
it's like a blip.
Yeah, and it's become very normalized. At the age of 18, you can just go sign your name in this line and take out this ridiculous loan that you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. You may not even know what you want to major in. You don't even know if you're going to love that job. You don't really know what you don't know at that point in time.
Yeah.
And I think we were really fortunate to have the support that we had to come out of college with, as I'll say, little student loan debt as we had, because a number of people have significantly more than what we had. But there are choices and available options to you. If you want to go to college, don't feel like you have to take out student loan to always go to college. The other thing on this one is, if you are planning for large purchases, debt isn't always the way to pay for something. If you don't have the money today, you can plan for taking on large purchases, whether it's buying a home and putting the down payment down for that home, wanting to renovate your house, a whole number of things. But sinking funds are a way for you planning to pay for these larger ticketed items without having to leverage debt. And having an established emergency fund is always a way to make sure that you can cover unplanned expenses without having to take out high interest debt as well.
Awesome.
All right, so number 6 is paying extra due to the lack of planning. And we are very, very faulty of this in a lot of ways. And we've had multiple conversations about this over time in terms of, are we going to cut back on the amount of ordering out that's delivered so we don't have to pay the delivery fee? Even if we do choose to order out, we can go pick up across the street or pick up 5 blocks down the way and get rid of the delivery fee. But this is one of those things that when you don't plan, time gets away from you, we're all busy, and paying for convenience is expensive and it adds up over time. So here are a few examples. We live in Singapore. I think we have probably 5 or 6 umbrellas hanging outside the door.
I bought one 2 weeks ago.
Because we get stuck in the rain quite often, and we are those people that we are not from Singapore because we do not have an umbrella in our back pocket all the time. So we apparently know the weather a lot more than others. So that's one idea. The other is transportation. We do not have a car, and so we have the choice between the train and the bus, or using Grab, which is like Uber here in Singapore, or a taxi. And we've done a lot better, I think, at utilizing public transportation. I personally like it, but when it comes to needing to get our son to school because we're a little late in the morning, a $10 to $12 cab ride 5 times a week, maybe multiple times a week, does add up.
Yeah. I think you have to be really diligent in this particular space of planning, because if you don't plan for as many things as you can possibly plan for, eating out, ordering food, picking up an umbrella, whatever you have to do, get a ride with Uber, as Stephanie said, then those things, they don't seem like that big of a deal over time. We're both reading, I read a book last year called The Slight Edge. Stephanie's reading it this year. One of the things that it talks about is both reaching your goal and not reaching your goal are almost the exact same thing. It's a question of the small decisions that are made early on that lead to the big decision or big impact later on down the road. So this example that we're talking about and not planning, every little thing that you're not planning, every little dollar, every $10, $15, $20 that you're spending on eating out, delivery fees, so forth and so on, if you look down the road into the rest of the year, let's call it 365 days, and you ordered 10 days out of the month, 10 times 12 is 120 days, 120 times $10, what's that, $1,200 that you spent in just fees alone for ordering food or getting a car or whatever have you. And so that starts compounding over your lifetime, over 5 years. And so if you start looking at that money and thinking about what that money could become in your future because you forgot to plan or did not plan or had a lack of skill of planning, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time you retire. And so most people don't think about that. So I'm hoping that whenever we talk about this particular section, you really are thinking about, okay, that $10 maybe 50 years down the road or 40 years or 30 years down the road, whatever age you are, whenever you get ready to retire, what that actually is going to become is going to be mind-blowing for you if you plug it into an investment calculator, which will link down below. By the way, it's free. Go plug in your numbers. And you'll be blown away if you actually go back through 2021, track what your little mini expenses were that you didn't plan for, your delivery fees, your Uber rides, all that stuff, and then go and plug that into the investment calculator and see what that would be in 20, 30, 40 years. And you're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna start planning better. It may be for a week, it may be for a month, however long you can to build the habit and build that habit, and you will thank yourself, your future millionaire self will thank yourself for planning. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the last thing on this one, which really didn't come to mind for me until we really researched this a little bit more, was if you don't have your finances organized and planned, and if you're not understanding where your money's coming in and going out, overdraft fees and other types of fees associated to your accounts that you may not be planning for, even if you're trading individual stocks, right? There's a buy and a sell fee, those types of things. You need to be mindful about how you organize all that and understand the impact to those little fees. For the longest time when we were here, we would have to transfer money from my US bank account to our Singapore bank account. It was $35 per transaction. And we were doing it once a month, maybe twice a month, but still, that was, $70 a month that we were paying in international wire transfer fees that you have options, just shop your options and make sure that you understand where those fees are coming
Yeah, it's
from.
$1,000 a year now that you talk about that.
Yeah,
By the
that's
way,
huge.
I don't even want to think about overdraft fees. Whenever I was younger, I didn't have a lot of money and I wasn't planning very well because I promised you I paid thousands of dollars to my bank. Okay, enough about this point. Let's move on. I was a terrible planner. I'm glad I married a great woman who plans much better than I do. Okay, so bad money habit number 7, paying way too much in taxes. Okay, so this is really a near and dear one to me because I do run my own business and I do have a tax person who takes care of the majority of my taxes, but I still nerd out on some of the stuff and want to know what's going on. And I probably send way too many emails because I see stuff on the internet and I'm like, oh, what is that? Does that work for me? Well, let me tell you this. If you can start a side hustle in 2022, no matter what that is, what most people don't understand is as an everyday employee, you actually pay more taxes than a business who makes way more money than you do.
Yeah.
Because businesses and the tax system the tax system was actually made for business owners and landowners. So the faster that you can get to these things, the better you can leverage, I don't want to call them tax loopholes, but the tax system, if you will, to actually benefit you to pay less taxes than other people, normal everyday employees. And not to say that, like Stephanie is a normal everyday employee, I used to be a school teacher, I used to pay more money in taxes on average than I do as an actual business owner. So that's something to keep in mind as you move forward in life. How fast can I start a side hustle and make it my own business and put it in my name or my business name so that I can start paying less in taxes than I do as an employee. Your mind will be blown when you start diving into this type of stuff.
Yeah, agree. Now, you're going, I don't have a business, I don't have line of sight to having a business. What options do I have for myself? A 401k is a great option to take advantage of the tax benefits that are structured in investment accounts. You can also leverage an HSA, and IRAs, whether it's a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, could be great options to take advantage of the different types of tax structures that are available to the average person. So a couple of terms that you'd want to consider, and we'll post another video about this later, but some of these accounts allow you to contribute pre-tax dollars. So before any taxes ever hit that bucket of money, there's a larger bucket, of course. So pre-tax dollars could be an option for you. You can also have these accounts reduce your taxable income. So if you're venturing into that next tax bracket that could increase the amount of taxes that you could be paying, there could be the potential that you have your taxable income reduced. You can also have these accounts shelter the dividends and capital gains growth over time. And lastly, in some cases, depending on what requirements you meet, whether it's a time to retirement, etc., you could withdraw some of these funds from these accounts tax-free. So be sure to take a look at these tax beneficial accounts. They're very, very helpful.
And by the way, if you haven't watched Stephanie's video on her $280,000 plus 401k, if you want to learn more about 401ks, make sure you check it out. We'll put the link here and down in the description because I think that'll be helpful for those of you who are going, what's an HSA, what's a 401k, what's all of this stuff. You can learn a little bit more. We dive a little bit more into detail in that video in particular.
Thanks for the shout out, man. So the 8th habit that we want to talk about is waiting too long to start investing. And I hear this all the time. I don't know everything I need to know about investing, so why would I get started? I need, all these courses and all this other stuff to help me understand how to get started. Or when I make this much money, I'll start investing. Every single day, week, month, and year just adds to the lost time that you are not allowing yourself to take advantage of compound interest, which is incredibly important. It's like the 8th wonder of the world is what I've heard. So.
Yeah, so the longer you wait to invest your money, the more you're missing out. Your future self is missing out on becoming who you want them to be financially. Yeah. So Stephanie wrote some numbers down here. I'm going to bring them up. The first thing we're going to talk about is making sure that as you start getting ready to invest and you've gotten yourself in order and your finances in order and everywhere you need them to be, in Google Sheets or wherever you're putting these things, you start looking at things like low-cost index funds. You're going to hear us say that all the time on this channel because that's something that we believe in. Again, we're not financial advisors. Go do your own research on this stuff. Look into particular funds that you want to look into. But let me give you a number that's going to, I think, hopefully shock some of you. So some of you watching this video will probably be 20 years old right now. All right, you may have a job, you're starting to make some money, and you might have some money that you're YOLOing away because you're partying and having a good time. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's your choice. I did it.
I did.
I could be much, much further. I think Stephanie would also agree.
Yeah.
We'd be much, much further along if we were smarter and somebody told us these things, right? So a 20-year-old by the age of 50 will have $1 million if they started investing $500 per month today. Mm-hmm. So within 30 years, they'll basically be 50 years old and they'll have $1 million by only investing $500 per month. Now let's take a stark contrast and say you waited till you were 30. We waited till we were 37, by the way. Mm-hmm. And if you waited till you were 30, in order to catch up and be at $1 million, just like the 20-year-old who started, by the age of 50, you would have to invest $1,500 per month. So if you waited from, instead of starting at 20, starting at 30, you would actually have to invest $1,500 per month to be a millionaire at 50. Mm-hmm. So you would have to invest an extra $1,000 per month. So this is why it's so important whenever people talk about what they call time in the market is more important than timing the market, meaning that whenever your money's in the market, mm-hmm. your money grows, has more time to actually grow mm-hmm. and actually exceed numbers than other people who started much later that are investing more money. Yeah. So as you look at this particular number, I really want you young folks who are watching this, and you young married couples who are watching this, and young couples in general that are watching this, even if you don't have your money together, I want you to really think about this. Write it down. 20 years old at 50 could be a millionaire, mm-hmm. right? Just doing everyday basic things, doing your job, putting $500 a month away. And at the end of the day, really what that comes out to is about $6,000 per year mm-hmm. in your 401k, yeah. right? Which is a very standard thing to do, but most people just don't think about that.
Yeah, if you want to look at the larger numbers, that 20-year-old over that 30-year time frame would have to invest about $180,000 across that entire time to equate that million. And the 30-year-old that started, that only had 20 years to 50, would have to invest about $360,000 double, right? Yeah. To still make that $1 million mark at the age of 50. So time, investing as early as often into something that is diverse and I won't say less risky, but diverse allows you to de-risk your portfolio mm-hmm. is a great way to go.
Yeah.
All right, so these are the 8 poor money habits that have been keeping us back from being able to build all that wealth. I know that you can take all this information and figure out what's applicable to you. We certainly have navigated through a number of these different things and had to get real and honest with ourselves about where we would want to improve. And quite frankly, we have no shame. The intent of us posting these videos is to put all this out there, give you all real life situations, conversations that we as a couple may have struggled with over time, but we are so glad that we had these discussions and we're so happy to share them with you because we hope that we're inspiring you along the way. The reality is this system wasn't built for us, guys. Yeah. And so we should not be upset and hold shame about a system that wasn't built for us to be successful. And with that, the last thing I would leave you with is all of this, getting your finances in order and working through your money matters, is a form of self-care. So it's something that you can really do for yourself outside of taking, that massage that you might want next weekend to just give yourself a load off. But it's really a form of self-care that you can gift yourself on a consistent basis and help your future self.
And so if you like this video, we hope you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and give yourself permission to be wealthy.